back. Hi, thank you. Hi. Oh, thank you. And I brought more candies. So questions after this talk, you get a candy. He's in charge. He's got them, except this one. Okay, so this talk, so welcome back. I hope you had a delicious lunch. Oh my God, the food here is amazing. I can't even believe how well I've been fed. But anyway, okay, let's talk about the talk. So pushing left like a boss. So I wrote this talk, so I was a software developer and then I switched into security. And I wrote this talk because this is all the stuff that I wish someone told me 4 years ago at the beginning. I had to figure this out. I had to figure out what the activities were that you could do as part of application security. I felt like I was kind of stumbling around blind in the dark. And so I made a talk that is just, this is the foundation of Appsec. This is the stuff that I feel we should all know. This is the stuff I wish every developer knew. And so let's start. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to explain what pushing left is. And I feel like you all already know, but I really want you to know it when you go home. So if you imagine the system development lifecycle, or SDLC, as I like to call it, written out on a piece of paper, the further left you go, the further left you go, the earlier you are the earlier you are. Let's do my little, there we go. The earlier you are, right? So security would like to be invited to the party a little sooner. In fact, I would like to be invited to every single part of your SDLC so that security is addressed the whole way through. I'm sorry, is my hair touching the mic? That's why I put it up this morning. Okay. We're going to come back to this slide later because I've heard you need to hear things 3 times to remember it, and you already heard it at least once today. So we will come back to it. But I just wanted you to all know, so I'm going to refer to pushing left over and over again so you know what I'm saying. When I used to go see talks, they would always have this who am I slide. And I never understood why they had it until I had to write one. The reason for this slide is to try to prove to you that I am qualified to give this talk. It's a please, please, please consider my ideas. Please listen. Please consider doing them at your office. So with that, as of Monday, I am a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft, and I'm so excited to be there. And I'm an application security evangelist, so I really like talking about Appsec. I will bore you to tears with it if you let me. I'll just go on and on. I'm the chapter leader of OWASP in Ottawa, and I also started an open source OWASP project called DevSecOps with my friend Nicole Becker, where we make crappy DevOps things and then show people how to hack them and show them how to secure them. So it's kind of cool. So far we have a bunch of vulnerable APIs, but we're planning all sorts of interesting things for the future. And I've been being paid to be geeky for over 20 years. I started developing software at the young age of 16, and basically the point is my goal is to try to make software, like to try to make IT the easiest way to do something, the most secure way to do the same thing. I want security to be a lot easier. So let's talk about this. The first couple slides are going to be a refresher for most of you. So it's the state of affairs as we see it. And the reason why I'm doing this, it's going to be like 2-3 minutes long. It's really short. But I'm doing this to make sure we're all at the exact same level. Because while some of you are experts and have worked in Appsec forever, some of you, this might be your first Appsec conference. This might be your first foray into this, and I don't want to lose anyone in the audience. So please be patient with me for the next 2 minutes. So you've been hacked. We are hearing about this constantly in the news, constantly. But like someone else said this morning, up to 90% of all of those breaches are caused by vulnerabilities in software. And this is a serious problem. And we aren't focusing our energies on this as I feel we should. So I don't feel security is looking the wrong way. I feel like they're just maybe not doing the 360 I would like. I see a lot of teams where they're focusing on the perimeter, and they're doing an awesome job at it. We're really good with firewalls now. They're focusing on patching, awesome, extremely important. They're doing enterprise level security, like taking away all those fun permissions, like your admin on your desktop, to lock things down and make things more secure. And all of that is great, but I feel like a lot of security teams are missing knowledge about how to make secure software. And if you work somewhere and they are making software, we want to be secure. So what is application security, or Appsec for short? So here I have, it's the art of making software secure. I joke that it's something that the security team wishes the developers would take care of for us, and that it's something that the developers, or the security team wish developers would take care for us, and the developers are often unaware of, they don't have time for, it's not part of their actual job responsibilities officially. There's no spot in their project where they're supposed to be doing this, and then we end up with it being kind of in the cracks in between, and that's where application security comes in. So we are that part in between. We're like the bridge between the developers and the security team so that we actually make secure software. Another thing I see, so as someone who did some consulting doing penetration tests, I get called in at the last minute. They've been making this app for 8 months or 9 months, and they call me and they're like, Tanya, could you come in next week and do some tests? Because we're releasing in 2 weeks. That is not when you want to call me. You want to call me way before. I mean, I look cool, don't get me wrong. So I come in, no one's looked at security the whole time, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel. I look amazing. I'm like, I found 100 things. But I'm a lot less concerned from a professional standpoint with looking cool as I am with like actually making sure you release a secure app. Because if I find a design flaw, right, like a logic flaw in your app, like things need to change, you can't do that in a week or two. You know, I need time to do the testing, I need time to write the report. I can't come to you the night before and then make you stay up all night fixing it like it's gonna be bubble gum and duct tape. It's not gonna be good, right? So I see a lot of penetration testers being called in at the last minute, and I have also seen some places aren't doing any security testing, like places that you use their websites. And they're just like, oh, we don't have budget for that. We didn't have time to do a scan. Like they just don't even do a scan and they just release it to the internet and they're like, I hope it's okay. This is not a good security plan. So let's continue. So who knows what this is? CIA. This is the reason why the security people have jobs. Confidentiality, availability, and integrity of your systems and your data. Right? This is why we get paid. Awesome. When I give this talk to developers, no one puts their hand up. I feel like security people are really good at being discreet. We're really good at keeping secrets and hiding the things that we should. But when we're supposed to promote things and tell people things and share, that's a weakness for us. Because we're so used to trying to hide everything. And the fact that I've given this talk at least 30 times, if not 40. And I am so lucky if 1 or 2 or 3 software developers put their hands up. They need to know why we're bothering them. This is why I hassle you. If your application has all of this under control, I will not bother you. I will be your best friend, right? So I feel we need to learn to communicate more with developers what we need from them. Okay, so with that, one more time, pushing left is when you start security earlier, specifically right at the beginning and all the way through. I'm going to give you an example to explain why pushing left is important. So it costs less and you will do a better job of security if you push left. Let's say you're building a house. So you and your spouse, you've been saving up forever, and you're building your dream home. This is really great. Oops. I had a timer set, but I paused it. I'm like, how can I be at 16 seconds? So you're building a house. You and your sweetheart, you've planned it forever, and you know, they're just at the finishing phases. They're putting the handles on the cupboards. You know, they're putting in the windows. You're going to put up drapes soon. You're really close to being done. And then your spouse says, oh, honey, maybe we should have put in more bathrooms. We only have 1 and we have 7 kids. You should have thought of that threat model. That's a lot of bladders with 1 bathroom to share. This is a design flaw, right? So this isn't a bug, which is like a problem with the coding that could be changed later. This is a flaw. This is your design. So what are you going to do? Maybe you're going to sacrifice a walk-in closet and turn it into a bathroom, and it's awkward because you have to go through someone's bedroom to get to it, right? Maybe you're going to have to lose a whole room for this. But if you had done this at the beginning, you know, you're mapping out the house and you're like, you know what, maybe we should get 3 bathrooms because we have so many people. And then you could plan it. It would be better. First of all, it would be way cheaper. right? Your project would actually show up on time, and it would be great. The design would be good instead of duct tape on the side, right? So this is why we should push left. So now you're probably like, okay, so we're going to push left. So what is this like a boss part? If you want to push left like a boss, in my opinion, you need to start an application security program. You need to formalize your steps. So let's talk about what an application security program can be. So I really like food. I guess I've already mentioned food once so far. So I organized my slides into food so that you understand what I mean. So in the following slide, I'm going to explain to you what I feel the main course is, the things that you should be able to do if you have a formal Appsec program. If you work somewhere and it's a smaller place, you know, you only have 10 people in your whole IT shop, maybe you can't do all of this. Maybe you need to hire out sometimes. You don't need to do all of these steps for every single app, but if you work in an enterprise, I really feel you should have the capability to do these things or hire out for these things when it's important. So let's look at the main course. Vulnerability assessments and scans. So I would like to explain right now that a vulnerability scan is not the same as a vulnerability assessment. And I've had to fight this a lot in my city, where they're like, oh, could you just go do a VA in the next hour? I'm like, do you want me to run a scan? Is that what you're asking for? Because I can run a scan in the next 20 minutes for you. But if you want a vulnerability assessment, I'm going to need some time. So a vulnerability scanner is an automated tool that will go and find all the low-hanging fruit for you in your app. But it won't find logic flaws. It won't find weird, obscure things. People estimate it finds around 30% of problems. You need to fix all of those things because vulnerability scanners are really, really easy to use, and that means any idiot can find it in your app. So you need to find it and then fix it. Well, vulnerability assessment is where you need to use your noggin. You need someone with some security experience and background to go through each of the different things in your app to make sure all the security controls that are supposed to be there are there and that they work correctly, to make sure the business logic can't be abused so that it's doing the opposite of what it should be, etc. Threat modeling. So I'm going to go into each one of these a little bit more as we continue the talk. But threat modeling, in my opinion, for developers anyway, is a brainstorming session between security, developers, and the business about what the risks are that face your application and how you can make sure that you've defended against them. We'll get into this a bit more. Oh, wait. Secure code reviews and or static code analysis. So secure code review is a manual type of effort, and it can be coupled with static code analysis, which is an automated effort where it parses through your app and finds things that it thinks might be a problem. Code review is important. I know that it's not fun, it's not going to make me popular to say, but it's really, really important for quality. And the last one is penetration tests, which again are not quite like a VA. A vulnerability assessment, you're going to find what the vulnerabilities are, but with a penetration test, you want to exploit them. You want to see how far you can get. You want to see if you can actually steal all the stuff from the database. But with a VA, I'm just like, I injected some SQL, I paused your database, I'm sure that this worked. I don't need to see all the crap I can get and the damage I can do. I've proved there's a problem, let's just fix it. Penetration testing is so great if you want to shock management into agreeing to sign things for you. There's nothing like sending a proof of concept. Like, I've definitely sent an email before, click on this link, boss, you've won an iPad. And then my proof of concept is in there. It's not a good way to get popular and make friends, but it is a good way to bring attention to why you need some changes in your organization. All of these things apply to not only custom homemade apps, but it applies to COTS products. So if you're going to do this huge implementation of SharePoint, awesome. You should test it and make sure it's properly hardened. Because just because the product is good does not mean all the things you did to it, it's still good, right? So please don't think because it came from like an awesome company that it's always bulletproof. You definitely want to check that it was put in the right way and changes haven't been made that are damaging. Okay, so who knows what this is? This is the Canadian national dish. Yes, it's poutine. So this is, we take hot fries, and then we put cheese curds in it, and then we pour hot gravy so that it melts the cheese curds into the fries so that you can have 3,000 calories in just one sitting. It's so delicious. I really like it. It's really good on a cold day. We have to put on weight in winter, we'll die. But seriously, I love gravy. And so these are extra things that you can add to your application security program so that it's even better, right? So above just the main stuff. So you could start a developer education program, right? Like if you have an Appsec team with 5 people, maybe one of you doesn't mind public speaking or is willing to endure it, right? Give lessons on things that there are problems with, like we heard this morning. If you could get some metrics on what's going wrong, like if you see a lot of cross-site scripting, do a deep dive into cross-site scripting. It's awesome. They will definitely appreciate it, right? You can also do like workshops on things, bring people in for lunch and learns, just educate your developers. Some of them won't show up, but some of them will, and it's so great when you get their attention. You can also do secure coding standards. So tell them what you want. Tell them what you need. Tell them what you expect from them. You know, like if your app has a file upload, here's the list of things I expect from you. You know, first you need to obviously scan it for malware. I don't know if you saw, but the Canadian government released a free tool to scan your files for malware. And then they take a sample and add it to our base so that we can warn other people about it. It's free. It's called Assembly Line if you want to try it. So if you're going to upload it to something, maybe you should scan it with that, right? And if you have a paid product, scan it with both. Like make sure it's okay. And the list goes on. File uploads are risky, risky business. But tell them what you expect from them, and then they might do it. A responsible or coordinated disclosure program. I know a lot of places do really, really fancy versions of this, but in my opinion, this is a lot like the thing in airports where they say, if you see something, say something, right? So give the public and give your employees especially a place to report security issues, right? Give them just an email address. If you find a problem, please send it to us. Great. And then make sure you read it and you look into the things. 90% of the things that are reported are going to be crap. This is a fact, or it won't make sense. And you will feel like you're wasting time, but that 10% where someone's like, oh, by the way, I saw your data for sale on the dark web for $50. Ah! It's really good to know these things, right? And if you don't have a way for them to report it to you, people will do things like send it to your info@yourcompanyname.whatever, and those people will look at it and not understand what it is and probably delete it, probably won't get to you, or it will in 6 months. Or they'll post it on Twitter or Reddit or someplace like that and embarrass your company. There's so many different things, and I would so much rather someone tell me instead of telling the media, so I can fix it. The last one here is creating a secure code library and or other reference materials, or creating custom tools for your developers. I heard about this at Appsec Cali. This guy was talking about how they didn't want people to use the MD5 hash anymore because it's insecure. So they put a wrapper on it, so whenever a developer used it, it would rename itself to really insecure MD5 hash function. Usage went down by 95%. Just being passive aggressive. I've worked at places where we make secure templates. Oh, it's so great. I didn't have to think, I just used it. And we had a secure coding library of snippets that were secure coding things that we'd already had pen tested, really thoroughly examined. So I know it's safe. I could just yank it and drop it into my code. It was awesome. Sometimes I tell security people about this, and they're like, great, I'm going to go in the code library and do this stuff. And I would like to inform you that the code library is like a woman's purse. You do not put your hands in it without permission. It belongs to the developers. So you need to ask them their permission to make an area for you. Don't just be like, we're going to do this, we're security, this is going to make you enemies. It's a woman's purse, you ask permission, or ask them to put it in for you, ask them to take care of it, that's even better. And then you can give them examples of things that you can put in it. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. This is the dessert. This is extra special things for extra special situations. They're not going to apply to everyone. You might not get to a level where you need these things or you want these things, but they exist, and I want you to know what they are. So 1, bug bounty programs. So we hear a lot about this, and I want to make sure everyone knows what it is. So who here has seen one of those many, many, many Hollywood movies or TV shows where the people escape from jail and bounty hunters go chase them down, grab them, bring them back, and then they get money, they get a bounty. This is kind of like that, but for security bugs. So you essentially allow hackers to hack a test version of your site, and they report all the things they find to you. And if they find something and no one else has found it yet, you pay them and you say thank you instead of suing them. Big companies like Microsoft, like Google, like Shopify from Canada, they run their own bug bounty programs. They're huge and they can do that. A lot of smaller places, you hire someone like BugCrowd, HackerOne, and they'll run all this for you. They will reduce a lot of the noise, do triage. It's fantastic. Not everyone needs this, right? Not everyone needs to have this level of security, but if you want to have 20,000 hackers look at your application, this is a really amazing way to do it, although I would advise, unless you've done all the other steps first, this could be very expensive if you do it this way. That's the end on bug bounties. So the next one is my favorite thing ever, capture the flag contests. So this is like a hacker contest. We put up a vulnerable system. A whole bunch of people gather and they attack it. As they solve security challenges or puzzles, find vulnerabilities, they get flags. They turn these flags in. They get points. And whoever has the most points at the end wins. This is, in my opinion, the absolute funnest way to learn about security. I've ran these for my OWASP chapter every year. This is the first year that I'm not running it. I've passed the reins off to my friend Jen. It's so exciting. It's so fun. I went to CTF and I made this all-female team and we went and I brought all these developers with me and I was showing them how to hack things. And one of them, the first time she got something, she literally jumped up and she was screaming and dancing and our whole team was really excited. This is what happens when a big group of women get together. We really didn't fit in at the event, but that's okay. If you ran one of these for the developers where you work, you will get their attention. When I showed all the developers on my team how to do SQL injection and get past the login screen, I just blew their mind. When I showed them, with a web proxy, you can just go right behind all of the front-end validation. And that means if you haven't revalidated on the server, boom, I'm in. They're just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, do you need to run back to the office now? It's such a good way to learn. And if you want to build better relationship with your developer team, this is a great way. And the last one is red team exercises. So in Canada, for the government, we have a red team. A lot of places, like big teams, big companies, they have red team. And what they do is they will attack your production applications during regular hours or off hours, but they'll attack your real systems. And they won't necessarily tell you what they're going to do. Like there's some scope, but they will attack you so that you can see how resilient you really are. Instead of the paper exercises like threat modeling, you now have facts, right? So sometimes people hire out a team to come in and test. And the reason why they do this is so that they know where they stand. Like if you hire a red team and 3 days later they're like, we got nothing. Like you're doing great. But if you hire a red team and 5 minutes later they're like, would you like to know your password? Because I know it. You need to make a lot of changes, right? And this is a way of knowing what's actually happening in your network. They'll definitely go for your legacy apps first, just so you know. You definitely want to make sure that's all cleaned up before you hire a bunch of people to do this. How am I doing for time? 20 minutes? Oh, good. Yes. Okay, so I'm hoping by this point in the presentation, all of you are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want to push left. Please, please tell me how. Good, because that's what the rest of the presentation is about. A bunch of these things I'm going to give might seem like they're things that developers need to do, but these are all things that as security people, you can enable developers to do. Because I believe the security team is meant to enable the rest of all of IT to do their job securely, right? That's our job, is to enable the business, in this case, developers, to get their jobs done securely and do them at the end have security. So how can we push left? You can test your code. So if you're on the security team, you can test code. If you're a developer, you can test code. If you're on the security team, you can make sure that there is time in the project for developers to do testing during the development phase, and again at the end. You can give, so how many people here have taken security tools away from developers? Yeah, you're not raising your hands. I have had the security team so many times try to take my tools away. Instead of trying to take tools away, what if we give them to them and train them how to use them properly and give them safe places to use them? This is my opinion. So if you're going to do security testing on a web app, you can get a web proxy. You can get an automated scanning tool. There's free ones. There's not free ones. There's cheap ones. There's expensive ones. There's ones that are absolutely, you don't need any skill to run, and you will get a smaller amount of things. And there's ones that are much more complicated to run, definitely need a human with lots of experience, but they will find everything with it, right? The way it works is it sits between your browser and your application, and everything goes through this proxy, and it listens, and it plans its attacks and scripts that it's going to use against your app. And it makes a report for you of things that it's found, right? If we could enable developers to use these things, so we're the security team, we have all the power. I don't know if you know that, but we have a lot of power. And if we tell the business this is a thing that we need, if we can get developers scanning during the development phase, by the time it gets to us, it'll be so much better. Caution, security scanners can cause damage. So when you give developers these tools, when you give them time, you need to train them. You need to make sure that they understand that, you know, if they come in at 9 and then they set Zap at insane mode and point it at their dev server, and then they go get a cup of coffee, they've just essentially DDoSed their whole team, and they're not going to be popular, right? So you want to make sure that they use them properly so that your name isn't mud. So another thing we can do is threat modeling. So you can get really in-depth with threat modeling. You can do attack trees. You can do so many huge things. And I know all the threat modelers that I know want to go in depth, and they get really upset with me when I say this. But it doesn't have to be that complicated if you don't want it to be, right? If your company's never done threat modeling before, just start with a meeting with the business and the developers and security and just have a chat. Explain, I want to know what you think the risks are. Like, if you were going to attack your app, how would you do it? Right? If the business, like, what are you worried about? Like, what could happen wrong? Like, if there's a, let's say, an email money transfer application, you know, what could go wrong? What are the risks? Well, people want to steal the money, right? That's obvious, right? But what ways, right? Like, if I can transfer you money, can I transfer you negative money? Can I transfer you like $1 trillion I don't have? When you talk this out, take notes, then go make sure it's not possible. So here's all of that again. Sometimes I talk through the picture because I don't want people to read while I'm talking, because I can only do one at the same time, listen or read. But this is, you know, then you can take a picture of the slide if you want. I'm going to share all these slides after on Twitter immediately. They're actually already on the net if you want them. I always share everything. It's my pleasure to do so. So feel free to take pictures or grab them later. Reviewing your code. So do you see this woman? Do you see how chilled out she looks? She looks serene. She looks confident. It's because someone reviewed her code. She knows it's good. So I think reviewing code is important. When you review someone else's code and you see a mistake they made, it is unlikely you will ever make that mistake again. If someone points out a mistake to you that they found, again, likely you're not going to make that mistake again. I try to tell developers that a secure code review is so much better than a regular code review because you only have to worry about the security parts. I don't know if that sells it better. But basically, you want to look through your application and look at all the places there's supposed to be something to do with security, and then make sure that it's there. Make sure it's working properly, right? Have someone else look at it. You also want to look for your threat models. So remember that meeting that you just had with the security team and the business and the developers? Go look and see if those things are possible, right? Like, you can find a lot of things with your eyes looking at the code that you can't find with dynamic analysis and vice versa. That's why I think they're both important. You can use static code analysis, which are these big tools by many of the companies that are here today. Thank you for making those. Makes code review a lot less painful. And it parses out the app and looks at all the different things and then gives you hints as to where it thinks there are problems. I feel there's a bit of a problem with static code analysis tools, not with the tools itself, but the fact that after management bought it, they're like, oh, well, you press the button, and then you have all the answers, right? So you just press the button, what's taking so long? Like, oh, it's not telling you the answers, it's giving you hints. It's telling you, there's 20,000 lines of code, we found what we think could be 200 things, and then you review them, and then you actually found 20 things, and you fix those 20 things. I'm like, this is great. Instead of reviewing 20,000 lines, now I'm reviewing 200 lines. This is awesome. But in the meantime, management's like, this tool sucks. It gave us 90% false positives. I'm like, no, Anyway, so you might want to explain that to management when you get this, that it is not the silver bullet that makes security happen. It is a thing that helps you get there. Okay, so this is the picture slide. And next. Okay, so this slide, I've had some people tell me that it feels a little condescending. Well, you could just write better code. That's not what I mean. If you see a professional athlete, do you think that that person, after they practice, they go back to their house, they sit on the sofa, put their feet up, they eat Cheetos and watch TV for the next 4 days? No, they do not. The best people on their teams, they practice, they watch themselves to make sure they can do better. They experiment with new diets, new different ways of doing everything, new tools, they talk to experts in the field, they ask other people's opinion. They continue to perfect themselves, and you can do that too. No matter how good you are at coding, you could still always do better. And if you have made an app and it is beautiful, it's fast, it's efficient, it's everything the client asked for, but I can get into it in 10 minutes, it's not the best, right? So let's talk about doing even better. You can train yourself on secure coding. I know this sounds hard, but there are actually so many free tools online and free videos and all sorts of things. I can't believe some of the stuff is given away for free. I'm like, this is so good. There's paid stuff, there's courses, there's training, there's all sorts of things you can do. You can ask to do them, right? If you are a security team, what you can do is you can provide this to the developers, right? Like I don't want to name names, but there's so many great trainings out there that you can bring someone in, they give the training, you can order like computer-based training, whatever, provide this tool and developers might use it, but make sure that their managers will actually give them like an hour a week to work on it. Right? It doesn't work if you buy subscriptions for everyone and no one's actually allowed using it. Another thing, so this is the biggest thing. So when I was a developer, I'd be at my desk coding, drinking Coca-Cola, that's what I did. And at some point I'd be like, I forget how to do that. I would immediately go to Stack Overflow. We all do this, all of us do this. And then I would look up how to do whatever the thing is. And then whatever the top thing is, I'd look at it, I'm like, yeah, that looks good. Copy, paste, compiles, perfect, continue coding. If you can just convince developers instead so whatever is the top thing on Stack Overflow, you better believe it is the least secure way to do anything. Because when you remove all of the security, everything works better. So if you can convince them instead to go, so there's this new part of Stack Exchange called the security part. You can ask them to look there instead, or ask them to look up the most secure way to do something. So instead of taking 30 seconds, I want you to take 2 minutes and do it the secure way instead. Right? Just look up how to do that instead. This will make a huge, huge difference in your code base. And another thing that you can try to encourage developers to do is become security champions. So I have people that will come to me. They're really excited about security, and they want to learn more. And then I teach them stuff. And then they go show other people, and it propagates, and it's like investing, and then your money grows, but better. Well, when you have someone come to you and they're interested, spend time with them. It's an investment, and it will grow. It will be worth it, especially if they're chatty and they want to talk to people and they're excited. They will tell other people, and all of this will grow and propagate for you. You as a security person, so from what I understand, the general ratio is 100 developers to 10 ops people to 1 security person. Right? That's not really great odds. You don't have time to train every single person, but if you can spend time with 3 or 4 different developers and have them go and spread that to 12 other people each, like it propagates, and it's really great, and if you can encourage it, it's awesome. I'm going to talk about OWASP again. It's happening. I'm sorry. This is a free resource that all of you can use, right? I volunteer for them. are a nonprofit organization that's international. There's a chapter here, there's chapters all over the world. Whatever country you're from, if there's any English speakers, you probably have a chapter hiding out somewhere. It might be sleepy, you might need to wake it up and tell it you need it. But you can use some of their products, which are all free. You can use their tools, you can read their books. They actually have books that you can order, they're free. You can download the PDF or you can pay to have it printed, you can have a physical copy. If you can get your developers into this, if you, the security team, can get into this, oh, it's going to be so good. And they have a new project about cloud security, yes! And they're getting more and more things. Like a bunch of their tools can be integrated into your DevOps pipeline. It's such a good deal. I'm looking at the time guy. He hasn't even showed me anything yet. Yes. Anyway, if you can get your developers to join OWASP and attend meetings and learn stuff, if you do it, you will stand out from your peers. Right? If you're in application security, like you really have to be a part of this. But if you can convince your developers in other areas of IT to come to OWASP, they will learn a whole ton of amazing things. And your security, it'll just go up like this. Like all the stuff is free. It's such a great deal. Anyway, next, with that, I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions. Oh, and we have candy for you. I know the audiences are shy sometimes, but I was really nice to the people who asked questions in the morning. You, sir. Mm-hmm. You have a chapter. I think you have two. Oh.
It's changed the culture.
Yes.
You know, how can we talk into the management that we should shift to the left? Not just changing the culture, it's also cost more budget than before. So how can we like talk into the management to shift left?
So the first time that I managed to convince management to do this, I'm not going to say where I worked, but we had a bunch of security incidents over an event we were doing, and I made a report. So I'm really attentive. I'm really obsessive about things. So I made a report about all the different incidents we had, and I grouped them into sections. I'm like, here's this huge section of application security related problems that we had. All of these were easily preventable. Like all of these are such low-hanging fruit. Like I can definitely solve all of this in like the next 9 months before our next event. Like just let me. Just let me. And because I showed them metrics and I explained the risk and I showed them the bad things that happened, they're like, you know what, Tanya? You know, you have like 5 months left on your contract. Just give her. Just do it. And I got all the developers scanning with SAP. I gave them lessons. I did all these things. It was so exciting. And we saw all of the code base just go like this. It was so magical. Stats is a really good way. Like metrics. Okay, I know this sounds bad, but create a pretty report with pictures and graphs. Executives like this. Don't make bull, make real numbers, right? There's this thing from OWASP, which is free, called Defect Dojo, and it will suck up all the results from all your security tools and then make these beautiful metrics and make reports, and you can make management style reports that are just great. Also, I worked somewhere once and they wouldn't fix any of, we had some external pen testers come in and they just shredded everything. And I could not get the developers to agree to change any of the things. And I was new to security and I was like, but I was hoping you would fix this. And it just wasn't working. No one was giving me any attention. So this is a stunt, so you should not do this every time. But I wrote up a report that explained the risks of exactly what could happen for each one of the things. And then I sent it to the chief information officer and the departmental security officer. So the person that's in charge of all the physical security and IT security, and then the person in charge of all of IT. And I was like, oh, could you sign off on the risk for this? Because I need you to accept all of this risk, that it's okay with you that these things are happening with our brand new biggest piece of software we've ever built. And then the departmental security officer calls me, he's like, Tanya, what is this crap? I'm not signing this. This is horrible. We can't put this out. And I was like, well, Bill, you know, maybe I could tell them that you tell them Bill sent you. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, Bill said, and then everyone just like, oh, Bill said. And then everyone fixed basically everything. It was awesome. So basically one of my directors told me one day, because I was all upset. I was like, we need to do this, and they voted no. And I'm like, I don't understand. I was like, I wouldn't say pouty. I wouldn't go that far. And he's like, Tanya, you didn't explain the risk properly. If you're this upset about it, you certainly didn't make us that upset about it. Right? It's like, what's the problem? And so then I explained to him, he's like, you need to go again next week, and you need to explain the real reasons, the real things that can happen, and why you're really worried, and why you're like, we can set this security project aside, and we really need to do this one. So it's a lot about communication, because if they don't understand what the risks are, or if every single thing for you is an emergency, you know what I mean? Like, after a while, they stop listening to you. So if you can clearly explain and communicate, which is hard, right? It's hard for techie people to communicate, I know. Thank you for your question.
The leftmost of software development lifecycle is the requirement. In your experience, how you deal with the requirement that when you look at it and know that they don't think about security at all?
So I used to work for the Canadian government till Friday. And we have this thing called ITSG 33, which is painful. And what I did is, like, I wrote a thing kind of next to it. So all the things that apply to software, and then I just reworded it in security, in developer words instead of security words. And then basically, like, you're doing an app. You know, are you doing file upload? Boom. I need you to do those things. I'm going to add that to your project because you're doing file upload. Oh, you're going to do this? Boom. I'm going to add that now to your list of things that I need you to do. And so then I could just reference that. So when I looked at the requirements, you know, there's some that are always there. So like the Canadian government has this HTTPS only thing. So all of the websites we're going to do that, right? And so that automatically is in there. So there's some like automatically in there every time. And then it's just like, are you doing this? Okay, you need this. It's like a shopping cart. And I had like 33 things. And you have you have like 6 for sure. And then you might have more. And then I'm just like, could you do these things? Thank you. So that's how it works. That's what works best for me personally, like coming up with this list. You might need to have language-specific things. So for instance, if you're doing Java, deserialization. Right? So if you're using Java, I also need these things from you. Right? If you're using a framework, I need you to use the newest framework. Like things like that. So if you can come up with a list of things and then you just do your check boxes and you tell them those few things that you need. Oh, my time's up. Thank you very much for your question. Thank you for having me. If you have more questions, just come see me later. I love talking. I'm very friendly. And I have more candy. Thank you.